This is the second video in this week's information about the food program. We're going to be looking at budgeting for food and the food program. Once again, coming off of our first lecture, it's really our responsibility to provide as nutritious as possible meals to our children. This can affect their nutritional development, their physical development, and can also have far-ranging kind of impacts on how we are developing in general based on the type of food that we are provided. We also want to, and I have noticed that we have some impact on eating patterns at home. So if parents don't know about the best way to provide meals for infants and toddlers, especially if they're newer parents, modeling good nutrition at school, modeling the ways that we can provide food for children, and then can have some effects on how parents choose to feed their own children. We can also make it part of some of the parent training that some of us are contracted to provide. How we provide nutritious food of enough quantity and quality to satisfy licensing, how that's achieved and how it's paid for is really up to your own individual program. I do want to just touch on this idea of food scarcity and insecurity. In San Diego County, as of 2016, 12% of our total population was considered food insecure, not like malnourished or starving, but not generally knowing where their next meal is going to come from, or depending very much on public institutions and things like that in order to meet their basic food needs. Of those 12%, over 100,000% are children here locally in San Diego County as well. 68% of children who are at risk of hunger, so have been identified as being in that over 100,000, are eligible for food nutrition programs, so free or reduced price school lunches or breakfasts. Congressional District 52, which is also part of San Diego County, has the highest local food insecurity rate at 14%. And this is in parts of Poway as well. So it's Poway, East County, Lakeside, El Cajon, I believe, as well, and then parts of Escondido are considered one of our highest local food insecurity rate regions. The average cost of a meal in San Diego County is $3.23 per person, and that is higher than the national average of $2.94. And you're going to see that even if you're going to McDonald's or something like that. About $4 per person is probably the lowest. Maybe even $3, but typically people budget for $4 to $5 per person, even eating out at kind of fast foods, which are considered cheaper alternatives. This is all from Feeding America, and I have a really heartwarming video from Feeding America as well. So Feeding America San Diego, talking specifically about some of the challenges that our families face. So for some of us in our programs where we're serving underserved, abused, neglected, and at-risk children, these are the population that we're serving. So we also serve kind of a greater good. In children that are food insecure, we might be providing the best and only meal of the day. So if they're having breakfast snack and a lunch and then an afternoon snack, because they're on a full day program, they might go home and have a piece of toast for dinner, or they might go home and have something that they've picked up from a food pantry, or in worst case scenarios, nothing at all. So we do have a greater responsibility in that case to make sure that the nutrition that we're providing is of enough quantity and then is as really good quality, because most of their nutritional needs we are then meeting for them. So the CHDV, once again, I call it the food program, and that's what most people do it, is kind of an opportunity to aid child and adult care institutions, family or group daycare homes for the provision of nutritious foods that contribute to, and I love this, wellness, healthy growth and development of young children, and the health and wellness of older adults, chronically impaired disabled persons. But the wellness, healthy growth, and development of young children is really the things that we're focusing on. One, because we have food insecure people where we are providing that, but just in general for all of our children, we need to make sure that we are fueling and providing enough nutrition to keep them going and going well throughout our program as well. 4.2 million children receive nutritious meals and snacks at the last kind of census that they did, and that's fantastic. So part of the daycare that they receive are reaching, and it's probably closer to 5 million right now as well. In our discussion board, this can be, I would be remiss, I think, once again, if I didn't talk about the food programs, paperwork, and we'll go a little bit into it. It can be a little bit tedious. It can be a lot. It can seem, and webinars and things, they're trying to kind of get us good information more so than they used to. But there's the huge books, and there's all the things that we have to do. So if you have a tip, a trick, a hack to make meals better, to streamline service, or to be productive in your paperwork, or to maybe cut costs while keeping quality and quantity, let us know. It's a collaborative space. I'd love to hear from you guys. What are you currently doing to make meal times, from the production all the way from how we pay for it better? So there's a 5-day reconciliation, and if you do the food program, you've done a food program before. It's when we kind of examine and review attendance and enrollment records, and then making sure that meal service lines up with those days that we've had. If you're currently doing the food program, you know what I'm talking about if that's part of your responsibility. If you've done it before, I've done it multiple times. I was really happy when I went to a state-funded program that had a food program coordinator, and she did this for us, and it was like, yay. If you don't participate in the food program, I would consider doing it as a self-assessment to determine if your program is providing healthy and cost-effective meals. So if you have flexibility in it, you could choose random days throughout a month in order to do it over 6 months, looking at a larger amount of time, but really specifically looking at your enrollment and your attendance when children are there, when they're eating meals, and then comparing them to your actual hard food costs. So that's why maybe in addition to the 5-day reconciliation, if you're using the food program, but you're also struggling kind of with food costs and things like that, looking at an entire month of enrollment and our attendance numbers and when children are actually eating, and then how much you're spending down to the penny on food costs will allow you to see what is cost effective, what's not. Maybe the prices of corn has gone up, but the prices of beans has gone down, and so you're going to try to order in a specific area going further. The food program and using it as well will make sure that even if we're making those hard decisions about food costs and foods that we might not serve anymore, but might other ones that we will continue to serve, the food program and the ways that we use the food program are really going to allow us to serve appetizing, nutritious meals, but also at a cost. So that's kind of the biggest thing. When we start with it, you want to kind of use a menu as well. So you use weekly, monthly, or cyclic or cycle menus as well. Monthly, there's a lot of advantages to that. You plan a whole month before it starts, and you actually be able to budget ahead of time, seeing what you actually need to order from the store, what you need to go out and get as well, especially if it's a smaller program as well. So there are, and then not having to worry about it for the entire month of October or something like that. If it's out on the last week of September and you know exactly what's going to happen in October, then all of your family is going to know what's going to happen in October as well. So this can be really great if you have a lot of control over your program and you're looking very specifically at cost. This can help you forecast what's going to happen in that month. And then you can do something like a reconciliation where you actually look at when children attend your program, what you're eating and what you're spending per child, per meal, per breakfast, lunch, snacks, dinners, costs like that. Weekly might happen be a great program for you as well. You can take advantage of the sales or seasonal produce. So, if you're shopping at Sprouts for your family childcare program, you can be at Sprouts on Wednesday nights, taking advantage of their double coupon days, things like that, or knowing where you're going to be able to go and shop and look at coupons as well in order to pay for it if you're not kind of using the food program. Cyclic menus are used over and over, and that can be really helpful when budgeting as well, because food costs stay fairly consistent. So maybe you have 4 weekly menus and you cycle them over and over again. So your month generally stays the same. The days might kind of change to give it a little bit of perceived variety, but you maybe only have a limited amount of, you know, I have 10 lunches, 7 breakfasts, 15 snacks, and I cycle them in and out, and I know just generally what my food costs are going to be week to week or month to month. When we're planning meals for nutrition, once again, they need to be posted the week in advance. And it's helpful to have a sample menu planning form like this from our textbook to ensure that we have nutritional requirements. But once again, if I was doing it, if I wasn't using the food program, but I wanted to make sure that I was providing nutritiously appropriate foods, I would use the food program. That's going to satisfy licensing, and it's also going to be, you know, fairly based on our nutritional standards and things like that. There's always ways that we can change it and offer whole foods and whole fruits instead of juices and things like that, but generally it is fairly nutritionally sound. It's also nice to have for each age group in the food program, they have a template. It gives specific measurements or guidelines. So it's another fantastic reason that people use the food program. What's half a cup? Who do you give half a cup of peas to? You know, that type of stuff. What's an appropriate serving size per child at each age group? So that is it for this week's food program. I hope that you kind of learned a little bit about budgeting and the importance of it as well. When you are using the food program, you typically have some food costs kind of supported by the USDA and their food program. If you're not, and you're having to kind of budget for it yourself, taking advantage of the menus that I kind of talked about, forecasting what you think you're going to spend in the month, and then reconciling it at the end, or reconciling it over a quarter, like a business quarter, 3 months, in order to get a real-time cost of exactly what I'm spending per child per meal, in order to see maybe where I can reduce food costs but still continue to keep my quality as well, by then using those different types of menus that maybe take advantage of coupons or more stable costs, or just knowing just generally what you're spending. All right, thanks so much. I will see you in the discussion boards.